The morning sun cast a gentle glow over the sprawling Beverly Hills mansion, reflecting off the shimmering surface of the swimming pool like a field of scattered diamonds. Jed Clampett, a man whose heart was as wide as the plains of his homeland, stood on the terrace, his hands clasped behind his back, looking out toward the horizon. He was a simple man, a mountaineer by birth, who had once spent his days shooting at food to keep his family fed. That was before the day he struck oil, black gold, Texas tea, and transformed his life into a journey that brought his kinfolk to this land of movie stars and sunshine. Inside the grand house, the air was filled with the aromatic scent of strong coffee and the lively bustle of a household adjusting to the morning. Granny was in the kitchen, her apron tied firmly around her waist, as she moved with a brisk, habitual grace. She was currently occupied with a skillet, preparing a breakfast that would have been familiar to anyone back in the hills. Beside her, Jethro sat at the heavy oak table, his eyes wide and bright, though a cloud of uncertainty seemed to hang over his shoulders. The quiet of the morning was broken by the arrival of a telegram. Granny eyed the yellow envelope as if it were a coiled rattlesnake on the floorboards. She shook her head, her expression grim. "Jed, do not open that," she cautioned, her voice trembling slightly. "It is bad news, I just know it. Telegrams are always bad news. Someone has passed on. I feel it in my bones." Jed chuckled softly, though there was a hint of curiosity in his eyes. "You are jumping to conclusions, Granny. It might be good news for a change." "You mark my words," Granny persisted, pointing a wooden spoon toward the door. "It will not be long until old Duke commences to howling, and you know what that means. Any howling around here will be done when Jethro comes down and finds out his breakfast is not ready," Jed replied, maintaining his calm demeanor. Jethro, entering the room just then, blinked at the mention of his name. "Breakfast? I am ready for it," he announced, though he looked somewhat subdued. Jed gestured toward the telegram. "This here is for you, son. It is from Llewellyn Aden in Monroe, Louisiana." Jethro stopped dead in his tracks. "Llewellyn Aden?" "Yes," Jed continued, opening the envelope. "She says she is finally going to take the big step, and she cannot wait to see you. She is flying in this morning." Jethro swallowed hard. "The big step?" Granny peered over Jed's shoulder, her brow furrowed. "I wonder what that means." Jethro began to pace, his mind clearly racing back to days long past. "I remember her. She moved down to Louisiana about the time we came out here to California. She was the sweetest girl back home. I used to call her Cupcake." "Cupcake?" Granny asked, tilting her head. "Yes," Jethro explained, a nostalgic smile touching his lips. "It was the name I had for the treats she used to bring in her lunchbox. I was crazy about her, too. First time I ever really fell in love, I suppose." "With Llewellyn?" Jed asked. "No, with her cupcakes," Jethro clarified. "Molasses cupcakes with marshmallow icing. But I liked her fine, too." Jed looked at the telegram again. "Well, she is coming here today. You ever proposed to her, Jethro? You know, asked her to marry you?" Jethro looked bashful. "I suppose I did, in a way. We were walking home from school, and I saw a horseshoe nail on the road. I picked it up with my toes and bent it into a ring. I slipped it on her finger, gave her a kiss, and told her to wait for me. I told her that someday you and me would share everything." Jed sighed, a look of realization dawning on him. "Jethro, it looks to me like you are facing a wedding." "I cannot marry no little old hillbilly girl like Llewellyn Aden," Jethro protested, his voice rising. "I am a sophisticated playboy, a member of the international jet set. Why, if I were to walk into that palace in Monaco with that little old hayseed, Princess Grace and Prince Reindeer would throw me out." Jed patted his nephew on the shoulder. "Well, there is no need to see Princess Grace and Prince Reindeer today. But the girl is coming." Jethro, looking panicked, turned and bolted out the door before breakfast could even be served, leaving the family in a state of mild confusion. Meanwhile, at the bank, Miss Jane Hathaway was attempting to teach Ellie Mae the intricacies of office work. Ellie Mae sat at a typewriter, looking at the keys as if they were a puzzle she had yet to solve. "Miss Jane, I am afraid I will never learn to type as good as you," Ellie Mae said with a gentle sigh. "Do not let that concern you, dear," Miss Jane replied encouragingly. "Your very presence ensures the rest of us get treated with respect by Mr. Drysdale." Just then, the phone rang. Miss Jane answered with her usual professional efficiency. It was Jed, explaining the situation with Llewellyn and asking if Ellie Mae and Miss Jane could meet her at the airport. They agreed, and soon they were on their way, leaving behind the hushed halls of the bank. At the airport, Llewellyn Aden stepped off the plane. She was not the pigtail-wearing, barefoot girl Jethro remembered. She was dressed in a stylish outfit, carrying herself with the grace of a modern young woman. Ellie Mae and Miss Jane watched as she walked toward them, surprised at the transformation. "Welcome to California, Llewellyn," Miss Jane said with a warm smile. Llewellyn smiled back, her eyes bright with excitement. "Thank you. Is Jethro here?" Back at the mansion, the mood was a mix of hospitality and concern. When they arrived, Granny stood ready with tea, though she remained wary of the potential wedding drama. After the introductions were made, Llewellyn sat in the parlor, looking around at the elegant surroundings. "I really did not intend to move in on you like this," Llewellyn said, looking at Jed, but Ellie insisted. "We are proud to have you, honey," Jed said sincerely. "But there is something we need to talk about." "About Jethro." Llewellyn looked down at the horseshoe nail ring still on her finger. "I know why you are nervous, Mr. Clampett. You think I came here to force Jethro into marriage because of what happened when we were children." Jed nodded slowly. "That is about the size of it." Llewellyn laughed, a light, musical sound that filled the room. "Oh, no. I am not here to marry him. I am here for show business. I want to be an actress. That is the big step I wrote about." Granny let out a sigh of relief. "You mean you do not want to marry my nephew?" "No, indeed," Llewellyn confirmed. "He is a nice boy, but I have my sights set on the silver screen." Jed leaned back, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders. "Well, that is the best news I have heard all day. We can certainly help you with that. Mr. Drysdale at the bank is a man who knows a thing or two about the movie business." The following day, the group gathered at the bank to meet Mr. Drysdale. The banker, ever the opportunist, was initially dismissive until he caught a glimpse of Llewellyn. With a theatrical flourish, he decided that she was a natural talent, declaring that a star was born. He began planning a screen test, eager to associate himself with the next big name in Hollywood. Jethro, who had been avoiding his home to escape the imagined wedding, finally returned to find the house peaceful and his aunt and uncle in high spirits. He learned that Llewellyn had no intention of marrying him and was instead pursuing a career as an actress. The tension that had held the household in suspense dissolved, replaced by a sense of shared happiness and the promise of a new adventure. Life at the mansion settled back into its comfortable rhythm. The days were filled with stories and laughter, and the family found themselves supporting Llewellyn in her quest for the spotlight. It was a time of joy and discovery, where the values of the hills and the glitter of the city found a way to coexist. They sat together in the evenings, sharing meals and dreams, realizing that no matter where life took them, the bond of family remained their greatest treasure. As the sun set over the hills of Beverly, casting a warm orange glow over the mansion, Jed looked at his family and smiled. They were simple people, to be sure, but their hearts were full of the kindness and humor that had carried them from the mountains to this place. And in the quiet of the night, as the stars began to twinkle above, they knew that as long as they had each other, they would always be right where they belonged. The story of Jed and his kin was far from over, but for now, they were content, ready to face whatever tomorrow might bring with open arms and steady spirits.